All right, music fans, welcome back. Harmless Dave here, talking about real music in real time for a couple of real people out there, just like you and just like me. So, Steve Perry has reacted to the Don't Stop Believin' thing, where Forbes magazine says it's the greatest song of all time. Okay, I'm going to comment on if it's the greatest song of all time. Being a Journey fan and talking all the time about Journey, you would think, hey, it's a slam dunk, right? It's a slam dunk for me. Is it? I don't know. Before I talk about that and Neal Schon's reaction to Steve Perry, which I think is very telling and very interesting. Okay, before I talk about that, which I just want to, Voyage, okay? Again, I keep pushing this album. If you haven't heard it, and people say you've been talking about it too much, and I'm like, no, it's not on the radio. It hasn't sold 1 million copies. It should be on the radio, and it should sell 1 million copies. And by the way, Hugo is not paying me. Voyage is not paying me to say any of this. I mean, if you're a Journey fan, please go listen to this. And if you're a patron and you haven't listened to this, please do it. And then give me some feedback. All right. This should be all over the radio. That's all I'm going to say. It's brilliant. It's just, I like it more than, I would say, 3 or 4 Journey albums. I really honestly do. All right. So I said that out loud. Yes, I'm sorry. I just think it's a really good album. Now let's get to what Steve Perry had to say, and then what Neal Schon had to say. So the feud, obviously, between Neal and John is kind of over. But I don't think the feud between Neal and Steve is quite over. All right. So the Recording Industry Association of America has certified that Don't Stop Believin' has been sold 18 million times. Forbes magazine also named it the biggest song of all time. So Steve Perry, who doesn't say a lot, wrote a message. He said, when this Don't Stop Believin', the biggest song of all time article came out yesterday, I was so emotionally stunned. To be part of such a moment as this made me reflect on my parents. By that, I mean, though I lost them both years ago, I was so happy for them because they are truly the reason this is happening. My dad was a singer, and both of them were very musical. So on behalf of my mom and dad, I thank every one of you for so many years of support. Now, it's cool that Perry mentioned his mom and dad, and most people are going to think, hey, what's wrong with that? Well, who didn't he mention? Who did he leave out? He had a couple of co-writers. Now, as much as the internet loves Steve Perry, and Steve Perry has helped people build YouTube channels, I mean, just talking about Steve Perry, and that's it. When Steve Perry says something, if Steve Perry puts out a song, or if Steve Perry goes for a walk down the street, people are there doing videos about it. So I think this is very interesting, the way Neal Schon reacts to what Steve Perry just said there about thanking his parents, but maybe leaving out a couple of people here, just throwing it out there. So Neal says, that's great, Steve. God bless. First of all, Neal Schon saying God bless is, I don't know. Neal, God bless, brother. Okay, it's good stuff. He goes on to say, I myself reflect on the great time we had writing this song. Respectfully, Neal Schon. Ooh. So that's a bit of a diss right there. He's basically saying, hey, you and I, along with Jonathan Cain, wrote this song. Neal Schon came up with that really cool locomotive train guitar riff. He also wrote the bass line for the song for Ross Valerie. So that's a lot. All right. I'm not sure if he put lyrics down, but I'm pretty sure it was a collaboration between Jonathan Cain and Steve Perry. So to make matters even more interesting, Neal Schon goes on to talk about Arnel. He says this: I'd like to add that if anyone knew the amount of tenacity, it's a pretty good word for Neal, and strength it's taken to keep this catalog alive by touring constantly with Journey, as we are now selling out arenas for the last 3 years and going into stadiums soon. I think all the members that have contributed to this band since day one, but nobody should dismiss the fact that have been running very, this is just what he wrote, so I'm reading what he wrote, and it's a little choppy here, that have been running very, very successfully, more so than ever, with Arnel Pineda. So if I were to condense that, 17 years of Arnel and strength and tenacity, and nobody should dismiss the fact that they've been running very successfully with Arnel Pineda. 17 years since we found his videos on YouTube. And then he says, see you in New Mexico, friends. So that's a real interesting take by Neal Schon. He makes a point about the catalog, and it's a good point. You also have to thank Steve Augeri and Jeff Scott Soto. But yes, the last 17 years is where Don't Stop Believin' kind of reignited and became bigger than it's ever been. So interesting take by Neal Schon. Definitely a dig at Steve Perry, who's talking about his parents and not talking about his former bandmates. You know, there are people out there that think that Steve Perry is so bitter with regards to his former band, especially Neal and John, that he just wants nothing to do with them. And I think even though we saw everybody happy at the Hall of Fame, I think Steve Perry, for some reason, just can't let go of whatever went wrong, whether it was the way he left the band and they were hoping he would tour, although that's looking more and more like it was just a record label thing. Again, you can read the article where Ross Valerie talks about this record executive from CBS who was really a big deal, who initiated the whole thing. And even the album cover for Trial by Fire, if you look at Steve Perry's face on that album cover, and he's kind of apart from the other guys, and he looks distraught, and the other guys kind of look forlorn, but not to that level. So anyway, I'm reading too much into this stuff. But the bottom line here is Neal makes a good point. He says, we've kept this catalog going. And Arnel is really important in that. Now, Arnel gets crap every single day of the week, and he probably shouldn't. And it was Neal Schon who discovered Arnel. And, you know, that band could have just quit. You know, they had Jeff Scott Soto, but they decided they needed a tenor, like a pure tenor. I don't know if that was the best move, but it was a good move at the time. It was definitely a move that paid off, revitalized the band, kicked the band back into motion. There was a ton of buzz when Arnel first joined Journey, and that buzz has worn off, but it's still there, and people are still paying lots of money to go see Journey. And he's right. They're selling out pretty large arenas. And a lot of bands don't get this second or third act. A lot of them just can't recover. And nobody thought that Journey could continue without Steve Perry. Without the band being out there and touring to play this song, and people have that, you know, bucket list moment, without them doing that, I don't think the song has the same longevity. I don't think the song grows in popularity the way it's grown over the last 15 to 20 years. So again, Neal Schon takes a little shot, a little dig at Steve Perry. He was very short. Hey, that's great, Steve. God bless. But, we're out here working really hard. You didn't mention me or Jonathan Cain. And it's cool that your parents did what they did. But, I'm sure everybody's, Jonathan Cain's dad inspired the title of the song. And Neal Schon was very important when it came to the music part of that song, adding those progressive elements, which make the song more listenable, because you can listen to it over and over again without being as hokey as some of the other songs that not just Journey, but other bands compose, where the melody is just so right in your face that at times you're like, okay, I need a break from this song. I think the progressive elements of Don't Stop Believin' make it a song that you can listen to over and over again and not get as bored with. Now, I'm a little tired of it, but it's still a great song. And anyway, God bless everybody, not just Steve Perry. God bless Arnell, Neal, John, Dean, everybody who has kept this going over the last 20 years or so. They've done a great job, and hats off to them. And before I go, hats off to Voyage. They made the perfect Journey album right here. It's mostly Journey. It's some solo Steve Perry and maybe a hint of Boston in there as well. So you can't go wrong with that combination. If you haven't heard this, you owe it to yourself to just go and listen to it, and then you can tell me what you think. If you think it stinks, then that's fine. I'm good. Anyway, folks, thanks for watching. God bless. Please sign up for Patreon, buy me a coffee, YouTube memberships. We got to keep this thing going. Last month was my lowest month since probably, I want to say 2018. Yeah, as far as revenue goes. But thanks to the patrons, I'm able to supplement that to some degree. But even with what the patrons are doing, it's less than what I used to earn with YouTube just 2 years ago. So anyway, thanks for watching. God bless, and I will see you soon.